Hi folks, welcome back to your third PHP basic video. In this video I'm going to be covering variables, and variables are really the nitty-gritty of PHP or any programming language. They allow you to store information in an easily identifiable name, and you can reuse that in multiple locations. It just makes your information reusable and maintainable. So we'll get rid of this from our previous tutorial. In the other tutorial I covered some strings and string functions as well as concatenating information. But with this video I'm going to be starting off with variables. So we do a $sign to tell PHP, okay, this is going to be a variable, and then we give it a name. And I'm just going to use name for this instance, but you can call it whatever you want. It could be Bob, it could be cup, it could be paper, whatever you'd like. And we need to set this variable equal to something. So we get to assign it a value. And we always do that by using the equal sign. So, and then I'm just going to pass in a string of the value Nick to $name. So now $name contains the value Nick. I'm going to echo out an h1 tag. And I'm going to I'm going to close my quotes so that way I can add a bit of information to it. And I'm just going to do $name. So we got a string of information, h1, and we're concatenating our variable name, and then we're ending our h1 tag. I'm actually going to do hello, so that way it makes a little more sense. Now, don't mind this, I've got this from a previous tutorial. So now we got hello Nick. If I were to change that variable to, let's say, Bob, and refresh the page, now our page says hello Bob. And that's really where the power of variables come in. If I were to go back to my code and I were to add in a couple more statements, let's do echo paragraph. And in this instance, I'm going to put the variable directly inside of the string. And from our previous tutorial, you know that double quotes will allow PHP to process anything that exists, any kind of PHP variables or anything that exists inside of the double quotes. So now PHP should see this as Bob goes to school. I'm going to copy this so that way you can see an example of how PHP would see this in the single quote sense. And from our previous tutorial, you know that single quotes will take whatever's inside and spit it out exactly as it is. It doesn't give PHP a chance to process what's inside. So if I were to refresh our page, we get hello Bob, Bob goes to school, and then our single quotes gives us $name goes to school. Again, PHP is just spitting it out exactly as, or returning it exactly as it appears inside the string. So I'll get rid of this, and I'm going to add on to this. So I'm going to go period, $name goes to school. So I'm going to add on to it, and I'm going to do $name goes to school, and $name is also part of the computer group. From now on, I'm just going to call it, rather than $name, I'm just going to use the name of the variable. So I'm going to come back out to our page, and you see hello Bob, Bob goes to school, and Bob is also part of the computer group. If I were to change this to Alex and refresh, now we get Alex. So that makes your code really reusable. If you set up a script where you just want to put out the information of a particular user or a particular person, you can set up a variable with their name and spit everything out easily like that. I'm going to backtrack a little bit and go back to the naming convention. With variables, you cannot start with a number. It's always going to start with a character, a letter, so A through Z, an underscore, and I believe that's it. And PHP will not accept this as a valid variable, but an underscore 25 will be accepted. Variable names cannot contain spaces or parentheses or any kind of special characters, so name, something like this is not valid. although Aptana starts to think that it is. It's this shouldn't be valid because this would actually be something that you would use with a I don't know, I won't confuse you guys. But let's say we want to change this to school name. Using it this way would make it very hard for someone to scan through and quickly identify the variable names. Whenever you have a variable that has multiple words in it, the first word should always be a lowercase, and then all the preceding words after that should start with an uppercase letter. So school name becomes school name, and this is called the camel case naming convention. So you start with a lowercase word, then you capitalize the first letter of all the preceding words. It just makes it a lot cleaner looking and easier to read as you start going through. Down the road, once we get to user functions, we'll see how this all ties into it, and also how function names actually differ from variable names. So stay tuned for that. In the next video, I'm going to be covering some basic math operators and using some stuff with that. So stay tuned for that.